Welcome to the Texas Oil and Gas Podcast. Ryan Ray here once again as Josh Shelton is MIA for back-to-back weeks. It's becoming a pattern, we could say now. And so, quick reminder before we get into our very special guest who has not been on some time, that if you want to sign up, our end of the year special for the War Room newsletter, the link expires either January 1st or the 2nd, I'm not sure, or December 31st. It expires pretty soon. So, I'll link to that in the show notes, but that link does expire. So, if you're interested, go check that out before the end of the year. But we teased it. We have a special guest. This man single-handedly hates the Barnett Shale as much as I love it. His reporting is as biased against it as is humanly possible. He conspires with the communist regime in Arlington. The man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Bloomberg, Sergio Chapa. It's good to have you on, buddy.
Wow, what an introduction, Ryan. Well, thanks, buddy. Thanks. I'm just out there reporting the facts. There are 0 drilling rigs in the Barnett Shale. There's a bunch of drilling permits filed, but no rigs showing up for some reason.
Allegedly.
Well, I'm putting that on my list of things to write about for 2021 right now.
That's fake news.
Move to the top of the list.
Well, Sergio, it's been a long time since we've had you on. I think the last time you came on, you were transitioning from the Chronicle to Bloomberg. You couldn't say where you are. For those who don't know, you're now with Bloomberg, and kind of maybe go over the past few months, what you've been doing, what you've been covering, and we'll kind of get into those topics after you kind of break it down for everyone.
Yeah, I transitioned, in this COVID pandemic world, been working from home. For these Chronicle since March. I transitioned from my kitchen table to my spare bedroom because the Bloomberg terminal requires a lot more space than I was willing to give up in my dining room area. So nobody was coming over to stay anyway, so that guest bedroom was just not even being used.
There you go.
So now it's a home office.
Right. And so what do you
transition check? These days, what's keeping me busy is covering natural gas markets and the LNG industry, and never a dull moment. You thought oil was volatile. Well, welcome to the world of natural gas and the LNG industry. It's never a dull moment, my friend.
Well,
never a dull moment.
Us at the Barnett know that all too well. Okay. So it's kind of poetic timing because natural gas is kind of taking it in the teeth this morning. It's trading right now at 225, I believe, and so maybe let's step back, because when you look at natural gas, there's kind of you got the spot price, but you also have these long-term LNG projects, and so for folks who might not keep up with the difference, not necessarily in the product, but how the price impacts those. So how much does the current price impact some of these long-term projects that you're talking about on a regular basis?
Right. So just the way things are today, as in right now, in the United States, we're producing around 92 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day right now, as of this morning. A lot of that natural gas is associated gas from oil wells. So like in places like the Permian Basin, where what they're really after is the oil, but the natural gas is byproduct. And like everything else in our lives, it was affected by the coronavirus pandemic. At first, it was the Russia, Saudi Arabia, trade war, crude oil price war. People have largely forgotten about that because, right after that, we started to see, shutdowns for the pandemic across the globe, and that natural gas production, went down as low as the mid 80s back in May, when people were, curtailing oil production. Therefore, it took, the associated natural gas production offline as well. The thing is about the natural gas industry that's a little bit different than the oil industry is that, there's a kind of rhythm to the industry. Like natural gas depends on a cold winter, to get as part of their cycle. It's cyclical. Prices, are at the lowest in the spring and summer, and they're at their highest in the winter, when demand is highest for heating and power plants. People like to stay warm in the winter, but but the problem is that this year the United States has had a mild winter, and it's as you noted just a couple minutes ago, it's had quite an effect on prices. It's made them lower than producers would like. We're at
Real quick,
like you said, 225.
aren't we in like a La Nino or El Nino or La Nina? And is that tied to the low? Is that tied to the warmer weather?
Right. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was gonna get to that. We're in a La Nina
Yeah.
weather pattern, and so what that does is that it makes for a mild winter, and this is what experts have told me. So it makes for an inconsistent winter that is mostly mild, as you say, but then also with bursts of like cold and polar
Okay.
snowfalls. Like we saw that snowfall in New York and other places a couple of weeks ago. But intermittently, like overall, it's a much more mild winter, which is great for everybody's electricity and heating bills, but not so great for natural gas producers. And lower gas prices, also make for cheaper feedstocks for exporters. So we're the natural gas industry right now is exporting around 6 billion cubic feet per day to Mexico, record highs. And then also the LNG industry, as you mentioned, is enjoying the benefits of cheaper feedstocks. But also, while we're experiencing mild winter weather in the United States, places in like China, South Korea, and Japan, and then also Europe are experiencing colder winters, colder than normal winters. So their demand has shot up, which is good for exporters. I mean, spot LNG prices for on the JKM in Asia, we're trading at like $13, even when as high as like $16. And when you have like natural gas in the Henry Hub here in the United States, it costs like $2 or so. That's a nice price difference.
Right.
So
on these LNG type projects, you talk about the colder winter in China versus here. Are these, because usually I think it was maybe it was you we had on a year or two ago. We talked about a lot of the long-term LNG contracts are coming up in the next 20-25 years. So when you look at a cold winter now and you say, well, we're trying to get some stuff to China, can they turn around that fast so they can pick up and on the spot market, or do they still have to sign kind of those longer term contracts to fulfill those obligations?
Yeah, so most of the United States LNG export terminals, there are 6 of them. They're supported by long-term agreements, like you mentioned, with utility companies and other buyers in overseas nations in Europe and Asia. And but a lot of them also have a certain percentage that they keep that they can sell on as spot cargoes, which means they could sell it to whoever they want, whatever price they want. Those long-term contracts, they're usually locked in. It's Henry Hub plus this fee, plus the shipping and handling,
Right.
and so it's that type of situation. But where the where producers and exporters can expect to make a little more extra money is in those spot cargoes. But the story in 2020 is just changed so much. I mean, with the pandemic, we saw a sharp decline in demand globally for natural gas, and we saw something on the scale of 175 canceled cargoes.
Wow.
And companies like Cheniere were able to weather that storm because they had in their contracts written in cancel cargo clauses. And if you cancel a cargo with us, that's fine, that's fair. That we just we'll just make less LNG or whatever, but you need to pay this fee.
Yeah.
So Cheniere was able to collect those fees from its customers in those contracts. And that was quite a buoy for them during the pandemic. But now the situation has changed so much now that it's winter, and now that we're seeing like that higher demand in Asia and Europe. Some people are even talking about tightness, declining storage in Europe, not enough electricity in China. So there's a situation right now where there's something on the scale of like 30 LNG tankers just floating around out in the oceans right now with no particular destination from US. They came from US LNG export terminals, and they're just floating around in like the waters of East Asia and the Eastern Atlantic, just waiting for someone to say, yes, I'll buy that cargo at this price. So right now it's a
what a gig. What a gig.
Yeah.
You're just out there on the captain a ship and just hanging out and nowhere to go, waiting on the phone call.
Right. Just waiting for orders. But I'll tell you what, the pandemic did change the game for these tanker companies. Like how you have contactless curbside pickup when you go get chicken wings or whatever. Right. Well, the same is true in the LNG business now. They've had to develop because of the a lot of the crews. These are foreign flagged vessels, usually staffed by foreign crews, and so they've developed contactless LNG cargo loading at the export terminals here in the United States, to where that the staff at the terminals, the U.S. based staff at the terminals, doesn't come into contact with the workers at the ships.
Yeah. So you mentioned China is a buyer of some of this. I'm curious, have you heard any of the U.S. companies worried about China's commitment to fulfill their obligation? Because right now, what you're seeing with China and Australia is China has coal ships that are sitting at their ports that they won't bring in. They're just sitting there. They paid for them, and they have something they haven't paid for, and they have blackouts. And so, is the CCP is just being stubborn, and they're trying to get at Australia for some other stuff. Are the American companies worried that they might get in the spot to where China is supposed to be buying LNG, they're supposed to be buying the stuff from us, and our ships get over there, and they're like, no, we're gonna just keep it at bay? Or have the Chinese with us been pretty good trade partners?
Yeah, no, Chinese demand has reached record levels for U.S. LNG. That issue you're talking about with Australia, that's a separate political spat between those two countries. And of course, the United States and China have their trade tensions. But I think that with respect to LNG, I think that those concerns have seemed to ease. Before winter, we were talking about, under the trade deal with the Trump administration, China had pledged to buy, X amount of LNG, and there was concern whether or not they would fulfill that obligation. But this winter seems to have erase those concerns, and you're seeing record cargoes, and China's climbing the stats and the number of in terms of, I think now China's like a top 5 buyer of US LNG export cargoes. And I mean, I just saw like over the weekend a couple tankers from the United States docking in China and unloading LNG cargoes. Okay. These were some of those spot cargoes I was telling you about that are just floating around in the ocean.
Oh, so nice. And the other country you talked about earlier on was Mexico. So the Mexico demand, is that demand because Pemex is struggling to produce natural gas in there, or is it the Mexican demand has just exceeded what Mexico has to produce? Combination of both. Why are we seeing such a demand from Mexico?
Yeah. So no, both are correct. I mean, Mexico it's a long story that's been going on for more than a decade. Mexico. And the figures bear it out. The production figures bear it out. Mexico has a long, sagging production for natural gas and oil. But with being neighbors to the United States, the prolific natural gas producer and some of the cheapest, natural gas on earth, Mexico's taking advantage of that. Under the previous administration, the Mexican government, authorized the building of several cross-border natural gas pipelines. And
this is under the previous the Obrador administration you're talking about, right?
Enrique Peña Nieto, yeah. So yeah.
Obrador is the new guy.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Andrés Manuel López Obrador is the current president.
That's right.
So what you're seeing today is something on the scale of like 6 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day going to Mexico, and it's feeding a variety of customers. It was primarily built for power plants to build power plant demand, but then also there's like, the maquiladoras and the everything that makes cars to airplanes.
Right.
Everything's getting that natural gas, and then also some residential and smaller commercial scale are also reaping the benefits of that. And yeah, and so I mean, it's just been growing and growing. We did see a small dip, related to pandemic related shutdowns in Mexico's and factories and elsewhere, but since then it's recovered, and it's actually broken new records.
So, get close to time here. Let you wrap it up with this. Two things. One, since you've been really focused on the industry, what have you maybe learned, or maybe you had a misconception about that you see differently now? You've covered oil and gas for quite some time, but you've really, since you've been to Bloomberg these past few months, you've obviously, I think, exclusively covered natural gas and LNG. So the oil side's kind of pushed aside. So have you learned anything new, or viewed the industry differently? And then two, from the oil side, I know that a lot of companies are worried about access to capital, their ability to survive 2021. A lot of M&A is expected. Talk just at a high level, how the natural gas companies, the LNG companies, how they feel about 2021. Is there the same type of concerns that they have? Because they've dealt with low prices for some time now. It's been a long
Right.
time. They've had lower for longer for a long time now. So curious your thoughts on that as well.
Right. So, what I've learned, I mean, it's just been an amazing peek behind the curtains, behind the scenes at the production and supply world, also like at the contracting world for the LNG industry. You see these tenders in places like India, Pakistan, um, you know, and so you get an idea before the cargoes head out,
Hmm.
of where they're going. And then you can also see, like, it's also been able to see like new, you talk about like where are we going in 2021.
Mhm.
For the LNG industry in 2021, the deal. I think you're going to see the deal making return. We've already seen signs of life. In 2020, which is marked by the pandemic, there was only one LNG project, to reach a final investment decision, and that was Sempra Energy's Energia Costa Azul project in Baja California in Mexico.
Hmm.
So I think that you have something like a dozen U.S. LNG projects kind of in limbo that have permits from the federal government, but yet they still need to sign long-term agreements in order to make final investment decisions. So you'll definitely see a scramble on for that now with the vaccine starting to get deployed, and the global economy starting to recover. Most people we've talked to believe that global gas demand will indeed and increase in 2021. And so, we already saw one important thing. The United States it exports LNG to 32 nations across the world. Well, this month in December, we're making that 33. We added Croatia to the list, in the United States. Just a spot cargo came from Cove Point LNG, headed to Croatia to their brand new LNG import terminal. But I think it just kind of underscores, what you're going to see in 2021. You're going to see like all these LNG companies chasing new customers around the globe in places like Croatia, Vietnam, India, Pakistan, perhaps even try to land deals with Germany, which is trying to diversify their natural gas resources. And then even in
Allegedly.
right.
I'm not sure about that.
No comment there, Ryan. Right. And also what you're going to see is the rise of perhaps even third-party buyers in China. There was a notable deal between Cheniere and the Foran Energy Group in China earlier I'd say last month in November, and it was it's a third-party private company. But what the Chinese government did is they opened up capacity at LNG import terminals and like state-owned pipelines that allow for like these third-party private companies, Chinese companies, to like buy and import LNG from producers, global producers. So you'll see people trying to chase those deals down too in China.
Well, it was
right now it's like a mid-tier. It's nothing near the state-owned enterprises, but still interesting. I mean, cargo's cargo.
Cargo. Well, it was good to get you back on. Congratulations on the new job.
Oh,
Also,
thank you.
I think our listeners could, if they were listening like I was, you were predicting a 100 rig boom in the Barnett next year. That's kind of what I took from that, a 100 rig boom. And so if you're reading between the lines there, I mean, Sergio can't say it, but that's essentially what he said, more or less. The Barnett will be right again in 2021. That's good to know. It's good to know for hotel owners and restaurants.
Well, I just got to say the Haynesville has more drilling rigs right now than the Eagleford, but yeah.
Sergio, you're cutting out on us. You're cutting out on us. Also, you do post I think you are still posting the rig update that you did for like the Chronicle and the Journal on your LinkedIn. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, every Monday. Sometimes it varies when today's Monday. Yeah.
Today's Monday.
So, yeah.
So anyway,
usually comes in the evening or afternoon, just when I can make time
so
to do it on my own personal time.
Yeah, so folks can go check that out as well. And then some of your stuff, I know you were telling me a while back, sometimes you're writing stuff that's behind the terminal, sometimes it's out on Bloomberg's website. So it's kind of need to follow you on social media. Where can folks find you so they can kind of see when you're putting stuff out for the common folks like we do every day?
Right. The best place, of course, is Twitter, #1 recommend, and then LinkedIn. And I do make kind of notes whether or not it's behind the terminal link and whatnot. I share what I can, usually a headline when it's in the terminal, and then otherwise note that it's a full web story that can be viewed.
Okay. Well, listeners, and Sergio, thanks everyone. It's been a interesting 2020. I can't say that I'm sad to see it go, but we will be back next week. And until then, keep climbing.